Okay, we're on page 116, 117. It's the last blessing of the Shemona Esrei. And I mentioned yesterday that it starts off asking for 6 things: Shalom, Tova, Bracha, Chen, Chesed, and Rachamim. And some commentators say that that corresponds to the 6 verbs in the priestly blessing. Each verse has 2 verbs. There are 3 verses. And the idea is that this petition, which isn't together with all the other petitions in the middle of the Shemona Esrei, is really added on at the end as a response to the priestly blessing. That you have to show that you appreciate blessing, even though there's a mitzvah for the Kohanim to say the blessing, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds by delivering the blessing, but you have to show that you appreciate it. You have to show there's something that's important to you or precious to you. And asking for it is a way of showing that. You don't just take it for granted. Now, there are a lot of things in this blessing, lists of things that we want under different conditions. So I want to just read through it, so I'll have them in mind, and then we'll take a look at least some of the details that I can explain. The first 6 are: give us, sim, to place upon us, and all of the Jewish people, your people. That's give or place. Then it's bless us, our Father, all of us as one, with the light of your face. We'll have to explain what that means. What exactly does it mean, the light of Hashem's face? And the blessing goes on, because through the light of your face, you have given us, Hashem our God. That's a whole long list. And the idea is, you've already given us these things, so we know what the light of your face provides. So we're asking you to continue to provide that blessing. So let's see. What are the things which HaKadosh Baruch Hu has provided us with the light of his face? Torah's Chaim, a Torah of life. Gavas Chesed, the love of loving kindness. Tzedakah is a kind of righteousness. Bracha is blessing. Rachamim is mercy. Chaim is life. And Shalom is peace. Now, I think if we analyze this list, we'll see that one thing here stands out as being different in category from all the others. Torah's Chaim is a thing that Hashem gave us, the Torah of life. Tzedakah is a quality with which he deals with us. How do they translate tzedakah here? Righteousness. Blessing, mercy, life, and peace. These are all things which he is giving us. In the list, the second one is a love of loving kindness. That doesn't sound like it's something which he's doing for us. It sounds like something he's implanting in us. He's giving us a certain character trait. I think that's right. And although we do have free will operates on your character and on your motivations. Free will is the ability by which you choose which motivation shall be realized and which motivation shall be denied. Free will starts with a setting in which there's a conflict between motivations and chooses which one to give action to. Without that structure, you don't have free will. This is in the commentators. I'll have to listen to secular philosophy as well. So one of the features that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts in us, which is part of our given motivational set, is a love, the love of loving kindness. Now the truth is, Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us a number of features, and some are features that incline us to do good, and some are features that incline us to do evil. The evil inclination is also something that Kodesh Baruch Hu creates. Here, we are asking Kodesh Baruch Hu to bless us by providing us with, or He has blessed us, providing us with this particular character trait. So we have to ask, why would this character trait be chosen out of all of the ones which He has given us, and all the ones we might have thought were important, to be mentioned here as something that He provides us with the light of His face? And I think that at least a beginning answer is not too difficult to find. Because as we have said, it's now verging on an infinity of times. Yes, that's a joke. That the purpose of creation is loving kindness. Everything that the Kodesh Baruch Hu creates in the world or does in the world can be traced back ultimately to an expression of loving kindness. That is the theme of the Way of God by Luzzatto. You read the second chapter, it's absolutely clear that the only ultimate motivation for everything that happens is loving kindness. The rest of the book can be read as in a way of explaining how the world is structured so that ultimate goal is carried out. So now, if He's going to give us some character element that is an expression of the light of His face, that in our character, which is a continuation of or expression of His ultimate purpose of creation, is a very, very good candidate for the character trait that He's going to provide with the light of His face. When a person acts out loving kindness, he's acting out the theme of the creation's ultimate purpose. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. There's a lot of literature on it, that the study of Torah is not the goal, but the action of carrying Torah out is the goal. And that the theme of carrying out the Torah is loving kindness. You probably have heard the word chassid. You think of those people who wear fur hats on Shabbos. The word chassid is simply a construction from the root chesed, which means loving kindness. Chassid means a practitioner of loving kindness. And the word goes back to the Tanakh thousands of years before the fur hats. Now, the Gemara asks, Ezehu chassid, who qualifies for the title of being a chassid? And gives quite a surprising answer. Amis chassid imkono, someone who does loving kindness to or for his creator. So the knee-jerk response is, but God's already perfect, complete, self-sufficient, self-defined, doesn't need anything from the outside. What do you mean? You do loving kindness to the creator or for the creator. And it's a natural question. The beginning way to think about it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, presents Himself to us in a variety of ways. And no one way captures the totality of His reality. Not even though all the ways that He presents Himself capture the totality of His reality. So each are one-dimensional snapshots of the way He interacts with the world, which carry some genuine information, but also could be misleading if you thought of them as the total story. You enrich your understanding of the story by playing one snapshot off another snapshot and seeing the differences and trying to create as consistent a picture as you can. That means, so how does the picture work? Roughly like this. One way He presents Himself to us is this. He created the universe and created it for a purpose. And He invited us to be partners in realizing that purpose. So, if He has a purpose and I'm a partner and I'm helping Him to realize that purpose, then I'm doing something for Him. Something He wants. Something that serves His ultimate purpose. So, that certainly is good for Him. It's not bad for Him. He's not indifferent to that. When do I do that? How do I do that? What do I perform that enables him to fulfill the ultimate purpose of creation? So one explanation, this goes back to I think the first or second year we had in the series, is this. He created the world as an act of loving kindness. Loving kindness means to provide benefit to another, to give good to another. That's why we are created, to be recipients of the good that he wants to give. But he wants us to earn the good that he gives us, so that it isn't a gift like you give to a meal to a 6-year-old, where the 6-year-old can't buy the meal, doesn't know how to cook the meal, doesn't have the resources to prepare it. He's just being fed like an incompetent baby, which he is. He really is. And so are the 16-year-olds, and so are the 26-year-olds, or 22-year-olds, who are all out demonstrating, pretending that they're saving the world. That was just a political comment. You can scratch that. Or keep it. It is true. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, no, you should earn it. It's better. You'll be better off if what you get in the end is something that you earn. Okay, how should I earn it? Here's the program. I'm giving you a program of mitzvos. That's how you'll earn it. So what am I doing when I do those mitzvos? What I'm doing is setting up the condition under which HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give me the good he wants to give me. I'm creating the environment in which he wants to give me that good. So that's how I'm participating in the purpose of creation. The purpose of creation is to give me that good, and he wants to give it to me through, in response to, the actions that I perform. So when I perform those actions, I'm doing it for him. I'm doing something for him that he wants done. That's the way I express my loving kindness to him. So now there's real partnership here. He created the world out of loving kindness to give us X. Part of giving us X is that we should earn it. So when I act to earn it, I'm now generating that end where he gives me what he wants to give me by my earning it. That's how I'm contributing to creating the satisfaction of the purpose of creation. So this is a direct expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's procedure in the world. So to love this, to love loving kindness, is to love expressing the theme of the entire creation. I think it's quite natural that the only character trait that's mentioned here that we say God gives us with the light of his face is this character trait. Rav Desta has a whole essay called Kuntres HaChesed, essay on loving kindness, where he points out that the desire to do good, to benefit, to help, is an essential element in human nature. Now, of course, it's only one element, and there are other elements, and there are often conflicts, and it doesn't mean that your desire to perform loving kindness always wins but it is an element, and you can see it in very widespread projects that people have, and also what frustrates people. People have children. The vast majority of people on the planet have, if they're capable, do have children. One of the reasons that you have children is because children won't survive without you providing for them. And your need to be a provider, a giver, a sustainer is what gets expressed when you have children. So far from the terribly dangerous and destructive motivation of living vicariously through your children, the children will do what you couldn't do, and then you push them into your slot because you want to see them succeed at what you didn't succeed, and they can't express their individuality, and so forth and so on. That is a motivation that people have, and it's a motivation that unnaturally restricts the children, and unnaturally puts them into a mold which they may not be fit for. But this is also part of it, that the children are an opportunity for you to give and to sustain and to aid That's why when your children grow up, become mature, and move out and set up independent lives, there is, for many people, together with the pride that your children are now standing in the world and taking their place in the world, there's also a pang that they don't need me as much anymore. And being needed, as you used to say in an older form of the English language, everyone needs to be needed. That's definitely true. People need to be needed because if someone needs me, then I have something to give. I have something to provide. I'm playing a role that's useful, that's meaningful, that's productive. If no one needs you, that's why people, when they retire, often go into mental, physical, and emotional decline because nobody needs them anymore. That's why it's very important if you have older parents or grandparents that there be something that they're needed for. So yes, when the alarm rings at quarter to 6 or 7:30, I have to get out of bed because they need me to be there at 9 o'clock. That's a very important element in the health of older people. So, if someone does a favor for you, and he says, "Please don't thank me," how do you feel? Don't thank you? Why shouldn't I thank you? You did something for me. I want to thank you. Why do you want to thank him? What's it got to do with it? Well, he did something for you. When you say thank you to somebody, usually the person you say thank you to enjoys it. He gets a certain recognition, a certain pleasure out of being thanked. And you want to pay back what he did for you. Your attitude is, I'm not a sink for your charity. I needed something, and you helped me. That's very nice. But if I have an opportunity, I would very much want to reciprocate because I'm a giver. That's why. Somebody gives you a gift for your birthday, the first thing you do is find out when his birthday is. Wouldn't you feel odd if you gave your birthday gift and said, "But I'm not telling you my birthday because I don't want you to reciprocate"? Wouldn't it feel peculiar? So this idea is it's an element in the nature of the soul, says Rav Dessler. Koach HaNesina, the ability, the impulse to give, and that's part of the way in which the soul resembles HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that was the chief purpose in the creation, the whole soul ultimate purpose in the creation of the universe. Okay, that's just this particular phraseology here. And then it ends, "Let it be good in your eyes to bless your people Israel at every moment and every hour with your peace." So the subject of the blessing is peace. The first word is peace. The last word is peace before the Baruch. And the final word after the Baruch is also peace. And up to here, it's just like it's a thing which we want to have. And now we say it should be continuous. Continuously present. So shalom, we have to work a little bit on the concept of shalom. I've been saying peace, but now I want to criticize that translation. I want you to know, this is an important thing to be aware of, all dictionaries have mistakes. And in terms of nuance, many mistakes. And it's not their fault. It's not that they just were careless or sloppy, because a language consists of a network of vocabulary and meanings and associations. And I don't think for any significant term you're going to find in one language a particular term, and another language a single term that's going to imitate all those nuances and all those connections. So if you're going to translate a word, maybe really what you should do is, in the translating language, to give a paragraph. Then maybe you could describe, carefully all the kinds of connections that the word in the original language has. But take, for example, shalom, to be translated as peace, is really quite far off. It's quite far off. I'll show you why. In English, you could say the graveyard is very peaceful. quiet. Nothing happens there. No wild, raucous parties. No pizza festivals. No children crying. It's a graveyard. Very peaceful. You could never use the word shalom for a graveyard. Never. Because shalom comes from the root shalem, which means complete, whole. It's even used as an expression for perfection, where perfection is understood as having no, there's nothing lacking, nothing missing. The graveyard isn't perfect, it isn't complete, it isn't whole. It's dead. That's why it's quiet, because it's dead. So, shalom in Hebrew is a very rich, positive concept. And peace in English is a negative concept. A vacuum. So, when you say shalom and you think of peace, peace be unto thee. And say, well, I hope when you go home there aren't any battles in the house. That's not it. That's definitely not it. It's a much richer concept, a much richer blessing. And by the way, the mistakes in the dictionary are sometimes very simple, and once you realize that dictionaries have mistakes, you can save yourself a lot of trouble. You read the English translation of Parshas Noach, and the flood was waters on the face of the earth. You think, yeah, I learned that when I was 4. Why is the Torah telling me that the flood was waters on the face of the earth? That's what a flood is. Because in Hebrew, the word doesn't mean flood. Mabul in Hebrew doesn't mean flood. The word mabul has no connection with water. Mabul comes from a verb which means to entropize. That is to say, to disorder things, disarrange things, destroy structure. It could be an earthquake. It could be a volcanic eruption. It could be a windstorm. It could be a flood. It could be any of them. So what the story of the flood is telling you is that this destructive force, which we are talking about in this story, was waters on the face of the earth. It didn't have to be. And if you look at the promise God makes at the end, you'll see that He says 2 things. He promised there won't be any more waters on the face of the earth, and there won't be any more mabul, which isn't limited to water. Nachal, for those of you who know a little bit of Hebrew. And he said, well, I know what a nachal is. Nachal is a stream, or it's a river. Right. And the Torah says that the servants of Isaac dug in the nachal and found water. I got it. They dug in the river and found water. Why did they do that? The river is water. The water's on the first surface. Just take a pail and take some. Because nachal doesn't mean river. Nachal means riverbed. It means what we call in modern Hebrew, Arabic, a wadi. The wadis in Israel are waterless 95% of the year. When there's rain in the mountains, so then the water comes gushing down through the wadis. It can be quite dangerous. The rest of the time, they're quite dry. So they dug in the riverbed, and they found water. That's quite reasonable. And by the way, the word yam in Hebrew, according to many, and in certain contexts, the word yam means seabed. Not the water of the sea, but the bed, the ground under the water. Mayim mechasim layam. The waters cover the yam. Really? The waters cover the yam? If yam means sea, the water is the yam. No, the yam is the seabed. So you mustn't trust the dictionaries implicitly. You must be aware that there are nuances and sometimes applications that aren't appropriate. So shalom as peace is really, I would say, quite far off. Now, the second most prevalent word here in this blessing is baruch. Baruch is something that you want to be given, and it's the verb for what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to do. And there is an intimate connection between shalom and bracha. The word bracha refers to increasing the quantity of something that already exists. Bracha is not creation ex nihilo. Bracha always is a matter of increasing the quantity of something that already exists. This, the Ramban illustrates the famous incident that happened to the wife of Ovadia the prophet. Ovadia and his wife lived at the time of Achav and Izebel, who were out to destroy the prophets of Israel. They tried to kill them all and destroy the Torah. And Ovadia and his wife undertook to support and save 100 prophets. They put them in 2 caves, 50 each, and they fed them, brought them what they needed, secretly, right under Achav's nose. Then, and of course they had to borrow money to do this, feeding 100 people, it's not simple. And then Ovadia died. And the creditors were closing in, and the Tanakh tells us that the creditors said, if you don't pay us money, we're taking your children, even though there's no way to do that according to Jewish law, but they weren't so interested in Jewish law, they were interested in making a profit. So they were going to take the children. So she went to Elisha the prophet and said, you know what we did, my husband and I. We risked our lives, we supported 100 prophets, and now I have nothing, I have tremendous debts, and they're coming to take my children. So Elisha says to her, what do you have at home? And she says, I have nothing but a tiny vessel of oil. Elisha says, go home, borrow vessels from all your neighbors and friends, take them into the house, take your children into the house, close the door, and pour out from the tiny vessel of oil into all those containers, which she does. And that oil fills all the containers. And she goes back to the prophet, Elisha, and he says, sell the oil, pay off your creditors, and with the rest of the oil, you can live. He didn't say to her, you and your late husband are great tzaddikim, and go home and you'll find a gold brick under your bed. No. He said, what do you already have? Aha. And then he gives them a blessing that what is very small should become very big. Why? Why do it that way? If she deserves to have a miracle and deserves to have support, why not simply tell her, go home and you'll find a gold brick under your bed? Because the blessing comes through an act of belief and trust in the prophet and in God, who he's a prophet of, and that act is crucial for attracting the forces of blessing. So if you picture her state of mind, when she takes the 2-ounce container of oil and she's standing in front of the barrel which contains 50 gallons, what does she think is going to happen? What is she expecting? I'll pour out the 2 ounces, and there'll be a thin film at the bottom of the barrel. No. She is expecting that the 2-ounce container of oil will fill the whole barrel. She's pouring it with her trust and her conviction that what the prophet of God says is going to happen, because God is great, and God will deliver, and that's how the forces of blessing are attracted to her and to the oil, and that's how she ends up with the expanse of oil. Okay, so blessing is a matter of increasing the quantity of something that's good, something that's useful, something that's beneficial. Now, Chazal say the only kli, the only vessel that can hold blessing is peace. Shalom, integration, shleimus. That's the only thing that can hold the blessing. In other words, even if I give you multitude, if you don't have shalom in your society, then the multitude that I give you won't be good for you, it won't help you, it won't provide for you. I had a very graphic illustration of this when I went to Mexico City twice. It was 25 years ago. And I was told that Mexico has the natural resources to be the 5th richest country in the world. It has oil, it has gold, it has silver, it has uranium. The population there is really very poor. Why is that, do you think? Because the upper-ups are stealing it all. That's why. So I was told that on the West Coast, there's a city, a whole city, that's owned by one man. How did he get to own a whole city? Very simple. He's a general in the army, and he ordered the army to build him a city. So now it's his city. He owns it. How's that for corruption? The whole society is shut through with corruption. So of course, if there's all those natural resources, the population, when I was there were 16 million people in Mexico City, 3 million homeless. With all those resources, 3 million homeless people? Sure, because the upper-ups are stealing it all. I also was going in a car, and the guy was speeding. Of course, everybody speeds there. And the policeman pulled him over, and the driver said, watch this, watch what's going to happen. So I sort of saw it in the interaction. I don't speak Spanish, but the policeman pulls him over and says, you were speeding? And the driver says, yes, I was. He says, give me $1. Driver says, I was speeding, give me a ticket. Policeman says, give me $1. Driver says, no, what do you mean? I was speeding, you can give me a ticket. The policeman says, I have a wife and children, give me $1. What's going on? That's how the policeman gets his extra money. By pulling, you're not going to convict him for speeding. You're not going to, no, he gets his graft by taking it from the driver who was speeding. This is shot through this. Well, if that's the kind of society that you have, then of course, the material blessing that God gives you is not going to be beneficial to the vast majority of the population. This is why it is said that a judge who does judgment which is valid and just is a partner with God in the creation of the world. Why is he a partner? Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu gives all of this plenty for the sake of people to live on it and to develop through it and to enjoy it and be thankful for it and so forth and so on. If there isn't justice in the society, then there's no shalom. If there's no shalom, no trust, no cooperation, no mutual understanding and appreciation, then the material benefits that you're being given won't benefit the society. I'll give you one more illustration. When the Soviet Union still existed, Ohr Somayach, like many other institutions, sent people there to bring Sforim there, to bring kosher food there, mezuzos, whatever else that could be helpful to the Jews there who wanted to keep mitzvos. And of course, they're all supposed to be secret, with secret trapdoors in your suitcase and so on and so on. And the KGB always knew exactly what people were doing. They had their reasons for sometimes letting you through and sometimes not letting you through. A friend of mine was there, and he saw in the park in Moscow someone selling burnt-out light bulbs. Oh, I bet you want to know why anybody would pay money for a burnt-out light bulb, don't you? I'll tell you why. Because you buy the burnt-out light bulb and you put the burnt-out light bulb in your pocket. You go to the factory to work. When the supervisor is not looking, you take out your burnt-out light bulb, and you go to a lit light bulb and unscrew it. Put the good one in this pocket. Take out the burnt-out one and screw it in, and you've got yourself at least a somewhat working light bulb. The supervisor comes by and sees the burnt-out light bulb. Aha, burnt out, hey. Goes to the storehouse, brings a new one, takes out the burnt-out one, puts in the new one, and sells the burnt-out one to the guy in the park. Got it? Everybody's ripping off the system. Why are they doing that? Because the system's ripping them off. They're slaves. The workers' paradise. And they know it. So every chance they get, they're going to, pull it down. Well, that's because with no justice, then there's no shalom. There's no shalom. You can have gigantic material resources. They won't do good for you, for the vast majority of the population. So that's why bracha is a very important subsidiary subject here. Now what's that? Yeah.
Just like when we're talking about shalom, is it is it like something that can contain the bracha? That's what shalom is. Shalom is like a kli for the bracha. That's what.
I mean, that's right, but of course that's poetry.
Yeah.
Bracha isn't like milk that you need a pitcher to contain. But the idea is that, if somebody offers you milk and you don't have a pitcher, you're stuck. How are you going to take it home? How are you going to use it? Put it in your hands and drink it? I mean, what are you going to do? You need a container. Here is a certain condition without which you can put all of these wonderful resources into the ground, and the country will be poor and unhappy. So it's the same thing. It's a precondition for the ability to use bracha in a way that's beneficial to the population. That's the analogy. It's a somewhat abstract analogy, but that's the analogy, insofar as I understand it. Okay, so now, what's the idea of the light of the Kodesh Baruch Hu's face? So there is a Ramchal who says roughly what I'm going to say. I don't remember the exact words, but this is his idea. Things happen, and if you think about them, and you think the patterns that are going on, the things have a certain complexion. And from the complexion, you can read something about their meaning. I'll give you an example. Let's imagine a period of great plenty and goodness for the world. One country discovers oil, and one country has plants develop an immunity against the types of insects that usually decimate the plants. And another one, rainfall, instead of being bunched up in one season of the year, is now distributed throughout the year in a more uniform way, which then enables them to have more crops per year. The Panhandle, the very, very productive, fertile area in the very north of Israel, gets 3 crops a year. Because it's so fertile, the things grow so quickly, they can get 3 crops a year. Okay, meaning there's a period of time of prosperity, but each country gets its prosperity in a different way, and there's no obvious connection or relationship to the ways in which they get their prosperity. That's one type of situation that has a certain complexion. Things are good, but the things are good in many different ways, in many different places, with no theme and no unity. Now contrast that with a situation in which, in one place, something is discovered, and it's exported over the whole world and makes everybody's life better everywhere, like division of labor, like the type of manufacturing which was discovered, I think probably at roughly the same time in several of the Western countries, the United States and some places in Europe. But let's say it was discovered only in the United States. The assembly line, each person does part of it. You have people specializing in particular types of productivity. Instead of having a farm where you do everything, build the farm and make your own clothes and make your own food and so forth and so on. No, you specialize. And then you have an economy that's based on trading the things that you specialize in, which gives you a much more powerful economy, much more productive economy. Now, suppose that idea spreads from one country to the rest of the world. And suppose it doesn't just spread spontaneously. Visitors are there and say, hey, God, look what they got. I'm going to take it to Bangladesh. But no, they send people out. They send people out and say, listen, we've discovered something. And this can make your lives much better. The complexion of the increased productivity is very different in that case. First of all, everybody's doing the same thing, so it's going to be a world unifying step forward. And second of all, it's going to be a certain moral leadership of the country that discovered it and is now advising people how to build it elsewhere, and a gesture of generosity, a gesture of caring, which is also, this can have a tremendous effect on world unity and world appreciation. Other people will follow their lead, and they'll, like from India came meditation, which at least in the United States in the 60s, 70s, 80s was very popular because it filled the need that Americans had, and they didn't have any. They certainly didn't have meditation like they had in India. So The complexion in the first picture is scattered, disorganized, disunified, but good for each country. The complexion in the second one is unification and sharing and caring for one another. So even though in both cases the GNP, the gross national product, goes up in every country, the complexion of the increase is very different in the two cases. This is what it means to sort of read the message in the cases. And this message can be, when we talk about or panecha, the light of your face, it means something positive, but it can be in negative things also. Imagine that, in terms of, I learned this idea from Rabbi Meiselman, an essay that he has on the Holocaust. That imagine that Jews are living in 25 different countries, and Jews in each country have serious problems, but the problems are totally different from one another. In one case it's health, in one case it's economic, in one case it's security, in one case it's education. At every place it's something different. So it'd be hard to trace that to some national Jewish failure, because there'd be no message in it. If it was a matter of health, Jews are living in 25 countries, and all of a sudden Jews are much sicker in all 25 countries than the local populations, then Jews as Jews will say, hey, wait a second, this is happening to us, specifically all over the world. So it's got to be something, it has to be something about who we are that this is happening to us. And then you could say, look, obviously this isn't natural, because Baruch Hu was doing this to all of us all over the world. What message should we get from it, and in what way should we do something to respond? So this is the idea of the complexion of the events. And often enough, in Tanakh, when it's described what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, the complexion is also mentioned. HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes the way a father punishes a child. A punishment is a punishment. Something that hurts, something that deprives, something that breaks. But there's a limit, and perhaps other good things happen at the same time, and there's often some kind of inspiration because this is happening, this is how you should respond. So it isn't just a slap of an enemy who slaps you and walks away. No. So that's the message in the complexion of the events. So we're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu here to bless us with the light of his face. What we want to feel, and this goes back to what I said in Shema Kolenu, what we want to feel, what we're asking for is not just that things should go well, but they should go well in such a way that we can feel the relationship that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to have with us in this going well. Remember, 3 times ago, we talked about Shema Kolenu, where we said that there are at least two dimensions in requests. One is I ask for something because I need that something, but also I ask and I want to be responded to because I want to feel that we have a relationship. I want to feel that I'm important to you, that I'm worth investing in. So there's really 2 dimensions to every request. Here, when we ask that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless us with the light of his face, that's an expression of the second dimension. It's not just that I want the blessing, which I do want, I do need, and there's a list here of some of the things that I do need. But I want it given in such a way that I can feel the relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the gift. That I think is, an introduction to the idea of the light of his face. I must tell you, I learned this from my Rebbitzin. It was like 2 years ago. She was giving shir on before Shavuos. She gives shirs on Zoom to people all over the world. And I happened to overhear her speaking. She says, we're coming to Shavuos. Shavuos when we get the Torah. And the Torah is, among other things, a list of commandments. When you hear the word commandment, what do you think of? That's what she asked her. So I thought, commandment. What would I say? Well, let's see. Commandments, duty, obligation, obedience, reward and punishment, reliability, faithfulness, and so on and so on. That's what I think of when I hear about commandment. And she said, relationship. I said, Oh, really? I never would have thought of that. But yeah, I guess if he's commanding me to do something, that does mean there's a relationship there, doesn't it? Then you could ask, why is he commanding me? What does he expect from me? What kind of relationship is it? It's like a whole dimension, which just wasn't part of my vocabulary. And since then, I've been trying to put it in more often. And very often, when you're stuck for an idea, it becomes a principle that solves a lot of problems. So here, I think that's the idea of Or Panecha. But Or Panecha is the kind of relationship, an expression of a relationship that we can feel in the gifts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. Yeah, I think also the very first line, this I'm going to quit, it says, give us shalom, good, blessing, chen, graciousness, be gracious to us, chesed, v'rachamim, loving kindness and mercy. If I'm not mistaken, it's always in that order. Always, loving kindness comes before mercy. Now I have to describe to you how they're related to one another. I always say that mercy is loving kindness second time round. Loving kindness sets up the system, and then loving kindness says again, but if some people are going to fail, something has to be done to make sure that they survive. So it comes second time round. I'm thinking now, usually it's chesed v'rachamim. I don't think you usually have rachamim and chesed. Tov is like chesed, and you have tov, bracha, chen, chesed, v'rachamim. So that the bottom of the bracha, avas chesed, utztaka, uvracha, v'rachamim. So this is the normal order that fits the way in which I expressed it. Okay, there's a verse here at the end. And tomorrow we'll start analyzing the vocabulary in a little more depth. The very bottom of the page is a verse from Psalms. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be, they probably say pleasing to you, favor. This is again Ratzon, the word of accepting the favor as if it was a sacrifice. Hashem, my rock and my redeemer. This parallels the verse with which we introduced the Shemona Esrei, Hashem Sosai Tiftach, V'yagidi Lasecha. There we said, Hashem, you should open up my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise, because I'm going to give now a long speech, and I want to acknowledge the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me the power to speak. I'm asking for Him to provide me with it. Now that I've finished with it, this is again a petition that you accept it as an offering. But here it says something which is implied before, but I don't think it was said explicitly, and that is the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart. Yeah, you are supposed to be paying attention when you daven. That's true. You are supposed to. And you're supposed to have in mind certain ideas. The most fundamental, basic idea of prayer is I'm standing before the Creator of the universe. I'm speaking to the Creator of the universe. If you don't have that idea, what you're doing is not prayer. It's just not prayer, period. If you have that idea, you know that you're speaking, you have some idea of what you're saying, you don't know exactly this word or that word, or sometimes you lose track with the free association, you pull yourself back on. Okay, that's doing it better or worse. But if you're not aware that you're standing before the Creator of the universe, then it's not prayer. It's not that item. It's not that identity. And if you look into the Shulchan Aruch, you'll see that the description of the experience of prayer is very much like what you read in meditation. You lose consciousness of where you are, your surroundings, what clothes you're wearing, what your next item on your schedule is. There's a focus, an attachment and focus to something which takes your total attention. It's a little bit like this. Somebody says, I'm going to flash a number on the screen. It's coming on the screen for 1.5 seconds. If you memorize that number and repeat it afterwards when it goes off the screen, you'll get $1 million. Do you think you'd pay real attention to the screen? Would you be thinking about the baseball scores also? Or your dinner meal, what the menu should be? I don't think so. I think you'd be really totally plugged in to see and remember those numbers, because that's very important. It's that kind of plug-in where that's all there is. That's all there is. I'm standing before the Creator and I'm praising Him, asking for things. That's what I'm doing. Let my action of prayer be pleasing to you, the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart. There have to be meditations of the heart there. That's the key meditation. Okay. That's what we like.